Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you, Brother Terence. Thank you very much for coordinating this Sunday Pūjā again. Okay, for those of you who are not aware, we had our first chanting retreat in Bentong. It's called 𝘿𝙼𝙖𝙢𝙢𝙖 Bentong Retreat Center, a beautiful place, and we enjoyed ourselves very much. It was very beneficial to many of us. We got to know each other better because we have been meeting most of these chanters online only. So we had a great opportunity to be with them for 3 days and 2 nights, and we chanted together, we ate together, we cleaned up the place together. And of course, on the last day, we met with the abbot of Susima Bentong, that is Venerable. Okay, so he's the abbot of. So this venerable, the abbot of Susima Bentong, he's a highly trained Bante from the forest tradition. We had a short discussion with him, but even that discussion was short. For me, my biggest takeaway there was that when I complained to him, I asked him that there are many contradicting statements. I told him many contradicting statements from many Dhamma speakers and teachers, and how do we address them? People are saying this, people are saying that. Sometimes we feel that they are not in line with the Theravada tradition. Sometimes, I'm not saying all the time. So his advice was very good. He says, "No, brother, because I told him, I receive a lot of list of questions from people to clarify, these statements, why they say this, and why you say this, and why they say this, contradicting statements." And my takeaway from him is that he said, "Brother, you remind everybody, ask them when they come to a Buddhist center or when they come to the temple, do they come here to learn Buddhism as an academic, or they come here to cultivate spiritually?" I sat back and think, I think he has driven home a very powerful point to me, or powerful point for me. Yes, many a times I think many of us would like to go to temples to listen to lots and lots of Dhamma talks, and then we confuse ourselves. Like what he said, do you come here to learn Buddhism? Yes, that is the way to learn Buddhism. Or you come here to cultivate spiritually. You come here, we put to what the knowledge to practice. We help the temple. We help the sasana to flourish. We help to clean up. We help to do many, many things for us to cultivate. We sit down for meditation. Or we have a very good and a very peaceful way of discussing the Dhamma. So remember, he said, remind them, are they here to learn Buddhism or are they here to cultivate spiritually? Yeah. So I think that was a very, very good take-home point for me, because I was always very confused, the defender of Theravada Buddhism, so-called. Okay. So I always disagree with all these statements, all these things. So he reminded me, come here to cultivate, not to learn Buddhism alone. Okay. So sometimes so in short, he says, we must also forget the controversies. Do not, because these controversies, he says, doesn't add value to our practice. So let's not spend too much time on countering all these kind of controversies, he says, okay? So I quote again, he says, we try to address the controversies, he said, and always conclude with, we are not sure. Okay? Always conclude with the statement, we are not sure. And in that way, we don't carry the burden with us. That is this is combined collectively is my big takeaway. Correct? Like I said earlier, I always feel that, I want to defend the Theravada Buddhism, because I'm from Theravada Buddhist Council, so-called, then now we learn to accept these controversies, and we just try to explain, but and then we just say that in the end, if they still don't agree, we say we are not sure, so that we don't carry this burden on us. So that is my biggest takeaway, of course. So now, after that, then he reminded me. Yes, after that, there are many more things that I've learned from him. I will touch on this slowly, because in this small talk, I cannot cover everything. I just tell you on these two statements he made, which was driving point for me. And that reminded me of the threefold teachings of the Buddha. That reminded me, and I came back, I reflected on what he said. So it reminded me on the threefold teachings of the Buddha, which is actually Pariyatti, Patipatti, and Pativeda. Okay, what does that mean? You need to have knowledge. Now, he says in the forest tradition, we practice not only the knowledge, we have the knowledge, we must put to practice. That is Pariyatti, with the knowledge, and Patipatti, to put to practice until we realize the truth. Okay, so these kind of reminded me of the threefold teachings of the Buddha, of Pariyatti, Patipatti, Pativeda, meaning we conclude with the knowledge that is suitable for us. We accept whatever is suitable for us, correct? Then put that into practice. Put that to practice for what? For realization of that truth that you believe in. Okay? And then any controversies, don't carry it back. Okay? So now, having said these three levels, we will reflect again. And what does it say? It reminds me again that the Buddha understood the needs of the laity very, very well, and he appreciated their needs. Buddhism, again, like I've said, the Buddha did not cater for only the monastics or those ascetics. No, or the samanas. During that time, we call them the samanas. No, the Buddha also took care of the laities, the laities at home. People like us who are still attached to our families, we are still working, we still have to depend on our career. We have to. So the Buddha has also actually attended to our needs, okay? If not, then Buddhism would not have lasted for 2,500 over years. Living on a monastic alone without the support of the laity, they would not have survived. The Buddha says the 4 pillars of Buddhism, correct? So we, the laities, are very, very important. We have a very important role, and our role is actually to support the monastics so that they can learn and practice more, and they come and teach us again. So we are both dependent on each other. We need to learn from the monastic, but we need to support them. Support them with their 4 requisites only. Not many, only 4. Okay, which is actually the shelter we give them, the food, the medicinal values, and the rope. That's all. Correct? So we must support them so that they pursue their they will pursue their insight to understand the truth and share with us. Okay, so that again I say that will be divided into kind of the threefold again here, which we will say that first, relative means what? Spirituality. Correct? So now we just talk about spirituality, then later maybe the methodological practices, and maybe we get time, we say about the magical results. Maybe, okay, we will touch on all these three. So there's threefold knowledge, the threefold teachings of the Buddha for the laities. The Buddha did not leave us alone, did not leave us aside. So the Buddha says is the knowledge for spiritual practice. So there are many people, still today, I think there are many more people, more believers than non-believers. More people who actually do not pay attention to spiritual values, correct? But you think carefully, even those people who pay little attention to all these kind of spiritual values or religious values, right? They still have a sense of futility of the life they lead, isn't it? They still feel that life is empty. Ask them, they will still feel that life is empty. What is the purpose of this life? For those people who doesn't believe in all this kind of spiritual upgrading or religious values, but they still feel the emptiness in them, actually, they still feel the emptiness. Emptiness of what? They want to know what happens after death, lah. Correct? They want to know the value of life. Why are they living, actually? So to answer this question, the Buddha has put it very simply for us. Very, very simply for these people who are non-believers in any religion or so. They are still confused, why are they here? So for that, Buddha has offered the meaning of life and the way to obtain a better life hereafter. This also, let's say, Buddha took care of the ladies, people who are like us, who are interested to know. The Buddha took care of us, and also the people who are not interested in religion, who are not interested to know anything, but yet the Buddha attended to them. How? The Buddha taught them the two extremes that you must avoid, the Buddha says in life. Believe or don't believe in any religion, avoid two extremes. Correct? And what are the two extremes? I like to touch on these two extremes all the time. Okay, the two extremes are 𝓿𝓾𝓷𝓭𝓪𝔂, which is sensual attachment to the sensual pleasures. So the Buddha says, for we laity, let go of too much attachment to your sensual pleasures. Okay, I'm not going to elaborate very much. I won't elaborate further unless you ask questions later. We can elaborate, but I assume that we know what is the sensual pleasures we talk about. So the Buddha says, don't be too attached to your sensual pleasures. Because if we don't have that kind of comfort in life, you find it difficult to perform anything. So one, and the Buddha says also not to be too attached to the self-mortification. Sometimes the believers also, non-believers, not so bad, I know what, but the believers, they will do all kinds of things to torture themselves, thinking that will bring enlightenment. Correct? They will know. So that's why when we went for a short retreat, we told them you're not comfortable to sit cross-legged on the floor. Get a chance, sit. Don't make yourself so uncomfortable. Don't worry. So the Buddhas found us the middle way. Right? No extreme attachment to sensual pleasures. When you're tired on the floor, go and find a chair and sit. Fine, no problem, don't force yourself just because others can sit on the cross-legged for 2 hours, you force yourself for 2 hours. I hear them saying at night they cannot sleep with the kaki sakit, they say. Malam tak boleh tidur, kaki sakit. So, okay, never mind. So, we told them next day, you take chance, don't worry. So, it is not about forcing yourself for practices that are not suitable for you. We go on the gradual learning, and the Buddha says you follow the middle path. And that is Buddhism. We follow the middle path where there is no extremism. Right? So, this is what we call the Majjhima Patipada. Majjhima Patipada, whereby the Buddha says, and the Buddhas explain that this Majjhima Patipada is about the eightfold path. Which again, if you allow me just to recite it quickly for you, is the eightfold path is Samma Ditti, Samma Sankappo, Samma Vaca, Samma Kammanto, Samma Ajivo, Samma Satvayamo, Samma Sati, Samma Samadhi. Which is right understanding, right concentration, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness. So the Buddha says you go the middle way, practice the eightfold path. But just as a quick reminder for you, this eightfold path is not an individual step you take. Not an individual step you take and you think you just do your understanding first, tomorrow you do your this, tomorrow you do your speech, tomorrow. This, if you can, this should be practiced in tandem. The eightfold path should be practiced in tandem. So that otherwise, you may say, hey, how come, brother? Right speech has nothing to do with right mindfulness or right concentration. No, but when you have a wrong speech, it will also disrupt your concentration. Correct? If you have a wrong action, it may also disrupt your right mindfulness. Okay? If you have a wrong livelihood, it also will disrupt your practice for samadhi, maybe, right? Right concentration. You see, so all these are all must work in tandem, in tandem. We put in right effort. Effort of what? Effort of putting right effort on all these actions. So that is why we say, I'm not going into detail, I'm sorry, but I believe many of you all are very familiar with this. So we say, then the Buddha says the middle way, the Buddha meant that these 8 steps must be practiced in tandem. Then only it becomes effective. Not which step is first, which step is second, this is more important than this is more important than that. There's nothing that's less important. I don't see anything that can be less important. For example, right livelihood, you think it's not important? I think it is. Because if you have a wrong livelihood, you won't have the peace of mind to concentrate. Correct? And then you are also guilty of not being mindful. Correct? You are also guilty of not putting the correct effort. Avoid this kind of right livelihood. Correct? And then you are telling lies to people. You say don't do this, but you yourself are doing this. So things like that. So see, it works in tandem. All 8 must work in tandem. Okay? Now, the second part, when we feel a sense of futility, of the life they lead, correct? A lot of puzzling things now. Okay, this actually we have covered now. Sometimes we feel very puzzled with life. So that's why the Buddha taught them the 4 noble truths. The Buddha elaborated. After that, then the Buddha says, when people are still, oh yes, about the Majjhima Patipada, but they're still confused, so there is still a sense of futility of their life. People will still feel, what is the purpose of this life? Then the Buddha explained to them the 4 noble truths: the truth of suffering, the truth of cause of suffering, the cessation of suffering, and the way to end cessation, and the way to end this suffering. Okay? Then the Buddha continued with this. So what does this mean? What does this mean to us? Why I need to know this 4 noble truths? So you reflect it carefully, the 4 noble truths, and it actually gives us the idea of detachment from material possession. Correct? The cause of suffering, we say, is attachment. And we say don't be too attached to sensual pleasures. Why? So we say don't be attached to self-mortification. That's wrong view, isn't it? So that is where we say that the Buddha can put in more meaning. And the Buddha wants us, Buddha wants to elaborate the 4 noble truths so that we can detach ourselves from material possession, and with the wrong view that we think that material possession brings us everlasting happiness. We always think that this brings us everlasting happiness. Oh, when I have a big house, I'm going to be happy. Oh, when I have a big car, I'm going to be happy. Right? So this is what the Buddha is trying to tell us, telling those people also who are non-believers, to reinforce the truth. And the Buddha put the community of the Sangha, the Buddha and the community of his Sangha. Because sometimes we feel that, like I've told you now, right livelihood, we cannot say something and do something else. The Buddha is a person who says and does. Okay? So to reinforce this, the Buddha and the community of Sangha, they live a way of life completely. They live a life with complete detachment from things. Remember, they only rely on the 4 requisites only, and they take only 1 or 2 meals a day. Right? So this becomes an inspiration for the laity to practice. That's how the Buddha helped the laities. Okay? So that is how the Buddha also helped the laities. Because like I've said, laities and the monastics, they must be together. And that is okay. I'm not going to elaborate on the 4 pillars of Buddhism, but I'm sure you can reflect on that. There are 4 pillars of Buddhism. Okay? So now we say, okay, then fine. Then what is our duty as a monastic? You say they are coexisting. Yes, our duty is to continue to support them so that they can support the monastic, so that they can continue their spiritual development and come back to teach us. Okay, our life is easier lah. We just have to support them. They go and struggle and find the truth and come back and share with us for right understanding for us. So this is what we are doing today. Okay, so they are now they come and practice. And our practice is by supporting them, by giving dana, which is also an act of detachment. So now, what we do for them is not in vain. Not only we are supporting them for the spiritual practice, we are also cultivating ourselves. Correct? Each time we give dana to them, we support them with their meals, we support them with their shelter. You know that we need money to spend. You know that we have to sacrifice a bit of our pocket money. You know, sacrifice a bit of this, sacrifice a bit of that. That is also our cultivation. Not only supporting them, we are also cultivating ourselves. The Buddha has made it easier for us. You give dana, and the Buddha knew that eventually, as we detach ourselves from this kind of material possession, we are cultivating ourselves. We are reducing the greed element in us. We are actually reducing the greed element in us. Correct? So that's why we continue to give dana, so that we eventually also will be rid of unnecessary attachment to all these sensual pleasures, because you give away. Then our greed level will decrease. Okay? So that is how the Buddha teaches us in a different way. In a different way, the Buddha says you support the monks, because through that support, we are cultivating ourselves. Through that support, we are actually cultivating ourselves. Okay? Cultivating what? By reducing our attachment, reducing our greed. Okay? And then that kind of thing kind of remind me again. Then we move on. So as we cultivate dana, we perform dana because we believe that will reduce our attachment to things and reduce what we say, our greed level. But remember, that increases our faith. Okay? As you perform this, it reduces your greed level, but it increases your faith. Correct? And the second part, second fold, maybe we'll touch on faith for the lay people like us. So faith, okay, first we talk about that kind of spiritual development, and then we also have faith. Don't forget, faith or mythology, we call it, So what is faith in Buddhism, We learn to respect. So how do it builds your faith, you say? How come, brother, I just give dharma to increase my faith? Yes, because when you go and see the Buddha, we tend to respect the Buddha. We tend to respect his followers. Indirectly, we are also respecting the Dhamma. So that's where we learn to respect the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha, and believe that this triple gem can help us. Correct. So we are slowly cultivating ourselves. That's why I said the threefold teaching, the three kind of teaching, that slowly we are cultivating ourselves through the simple teachings of the Buddha. The Buddha knew our needs, and the Buddha put his dana, it increased our faith. Correct. So now our faith will increase, and we respect the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. Correct. And then we continue to give dana. Why? For the merits that we talk about. Correct. In Buddhism, what is important for us in Theravada Buddhists is actually about acquiring merits. Why are these merits for? These merits are for our future rebirth. They create better condition for us in future. For what? For our spiritual progress. Maybe this life we have got less opportunity, but we hope that we continue to perform dana, continue to have to respect in the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. We will accrue lots of merits, and through these merits, we hope that we get a better rebirth, so with better conditions for our spiritual progress. Right? So that is also the purpose. Faith is longing for things not in the world. Correct? So what is faith? Faith is longing for things that are not in the world. It expresses, so how it expresses itself in worship. Correct? So we started, with them we will start. Then we have faith. Then what do we do as Buddhists? Then we have faith in worshipping the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. Then we start worshipping the Buddha's relic. When I say worshipping means I say we respect, we venerate. I use words that are commonly used. Okay, so we start to venerate the Buddha's relics, correct? We circumambulate the relics when you go to the temple. If they have a chaitya there, we circumambulate. It's all faith, right? So it builds our faith now. Then it covers other. Okay, then for this faith, not only the Buddha's relic, we will also venerate the Bodhi tree. We will also venerate the Buddha Rupa. We go to the Chaitya, then we go to the Bodhi tree. If there is a Bodhi tree in that premise, then we go to the main shrine hall and we venerate, obviously we pay respects to the Buddha Rupa. Correct? And all these kind of things, they are not magical. Correct? We say that all these kind of things that we do not expect magical kind of results in it. We don't expect, I buy the Buddha today, I win lottery tomorrow. No. We are saying that we are just respecting him as a superior being that has brought good teachings to us, that's got good training for us. Okay? And then as we do this, we bow to the Buddha Rupa. We go to the Buddha's relic, we circumambulate the relics. We go to the Bodhi tree, we circumambulate the Bodhi tree. How does it help us if it's not magical? Yes. We are saying not magical. Don't expect any miracles to happen. But the miracle that will happen is you will slowly become more humble. And that is the miracle, right? We will realize that we are not so self-conscious anymore. Many of us are still very self-conscious. You ask us to do this, we say, you have something which you don't have strong faith. You won't do that, correct? Ask you to go to any other tree, you see that tree has got this krama, that krama, you ask you to buy there, I don't think you'll do, right? But when you have great faith, in this case, we have faith in the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha, correct? We venerate the Bodhi tree, we circumambulate his relics, we bow to his Rupa, Buddha Rupa. And then, like I've said, you will actually slowly become less self-conscious. We are all very self-conscious. If I use a bigger term, we are all very egoistic. Correct? We cannot lower ourselves to other people sometimes. Correct? So this practice, you notice that this practice will make you more humble. That is the magic of the practice. We become more humble and we become more real. Correct? So we can become more approachable. And then slowly, when we become less ego and less attached to our self, this self that we talk about, one day we can discuss on self. And we are now attached to this self, this I, mind, this is mine. So when we are less attached, we will actually acquire more wholesome habits, correct? Wholesome habits meaning to say that we will slowly give up our anger, correct? Our jealousy, correct? Our hatred to people, our anger and jealousy. We will give up this because this anger and jealousy leads you to hatred. So now we will now actually, you will acquire this quality, these wholesome qualities by being more patient in life, by giving up this kind of anger and hatred, which are all, we say, destructive emotions. These kind of feelings are destructive emotions, but through this practice of humility, of circumambulating the Bodhi tree, of circumambulating the Buddha's relic, of bowing before the Buddha Rupa, we are cultivating ourselves to become less egoistic. We are practicing ourselves for humility, right? So we become more humble in life, and it's easier for us to get rid of these kind of destructive emotions of jealousy and greed and anger. So we can give up this slowly. Okay, and then more dogmatic practices about this detachment of worldly things. Sometimes we say that offering of dana, particularly now during the Vasa season, you see many people are offering dana to the Buddha. They're bringing food to the Buddha. Okay, so I mean, sorry. I recorrect myself. They're bringing food for the monks who are observing Vasa in the temple. But during the Vasa period, they will not leave the temple unnecessarily. They will remain in the temple for their own spiritual cultivation, and we are to support them. Like I've said earlier, it is the duty of the laity to support the monastic, and that is where we go and offer dana to them. Not forgetting, they eat also off season, without not during Vasa, they still need to eat. So you don't only focus on giving dana only during Vasa, you still must give them, you still must look after them after Vasa. Don't think only the monks eat only during Vasa. Once I took the monk out, I tell him what's the purpose. I tell him it's my birthday. Venerable, today is my birthday, so I take you for dana. I say, yeah, I eat once a year only lah. Your birthday, I eat lah. You see, so we must not forget, so it is not about Vasa only. We bring dana, we should bring it every time. Anytime we are available, anytime we must, not even not available, we must ensure that the monastics have their 4 requisites every day. Correct? We must work towards that direction. That is the purpose of laity, and the monastics have their own role to play. We have our own role to play. Okay? So offering of dana, then again, when we build the faith, when we have built faith in the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha, then more of these dogmatic practices will bring us detachment. What kind of, we say, dogmatic practices, sometimes we take refuge in the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. No, sometimes we must take refuge in the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. We must observe our 5 precepts, recite the 5 precepts every day to remind us to observe the 5 precepts. We do chanting every new moon and full moon. We do chanting for the Bojjhanga. We do the Buddha Pūjā on Sundays. These are the dogmatic practices. Yes, they are dogmatic, you can say yes, but it serves a big purpose. It does serve a purpose, correct? And the purpose is to have more faith in the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha, and for cultivating our humility, meaning we will reduce the ego in us, reduce the self-consciousness in us. Right? So slowly we do that. So that is, I think that's one way that we can learn this faith. So sometimes people are saying, sometimes, I'm not sure how much time I've taken. I wasn't monitoring my time. So, okay, never mind. I just try to finish what I have in mind today. Sometimes miracles happen, when you when you do chanting and chanting and chanting. It does happen. Please remember, this is not superstitious. This is not, and sometimes people are mistaken. They say the Buddha says don't do all these rituals. No, when the Buddha says don't do the rituals at that point of time in the Kalama Sutta, the Buddha was commenting on the other rituals practiced during the Brahmanic period. Those are very severe kind of practices. Like they behave like animals when they go to the temple, they do a lot of self-mortification or things like that. I think I have explained that many times before. So that is the practice. But our kind of puja is not condemned by the Buddha. We must continue. And like I said, we don't expect miracles to happen. Sometimes it does happen, yeah. But when this happens, sometimes it is not only because of the devas coming to help you. Of course, when we in the Ratana Sutta, the Buddha says, all those celestial and terrestrial beings, please protect these humans. Protect these humans, guard these humans, because they bring offerings to you day and night. They transfer merits to you. That was the instruction of the Buddha. Yes, when we do this kind of puja, the devas come and protect you. True. But again, sometimes it is because of the resolute faith we have. Example, I tell you a nice story, Example, sometimes, all the time the devas come to help you, yes. Sometimes it is because of resolute faith, full faith we have, full concentration we have. That's why we always say compose ourselves before we start the puja. We must compose ourselves, clear the mind. Then we continue with the puja with the firm objective of whatever we have. Correct? Now, there's the story here. There was a lady in China once, who heard that her friend, a business woman, was traveling to India. So told this lady, hey, when you go to India, you try to get me a Buddha relic, lah. Get something for me there, lah. So the friend said, okay, I will. So the friend went to India to do her business, and this lady was in China. So when the friend wanted to come back, she forgot not to get the Buddha relic. She doesn't know where to get anyway, lah. So she thought, never mind, lah. She saw one carcass of a dog, an old skeleton of a dog that, took one piece of the bone there, the teeth there, then brought back to China and told her friend, this is the relic of the Buddha. So the friend was so happy, so happy. Wow, she built a chetia, to house that little relic, the so-called relic of the Buddha, which was actually only the dog's tooth. Built and invited all the friends there daily. They circumambulate daily. They offer the offerings, and they were and they do the chanting there, and then they began to worship the thing daily. Correct? They worship with very, very much reverence, very, very, I told you, they were so focused, so resolute in their faith. Then after a long time, after some time, they saw beautiful lights, radiant of lights emitted, they saw beautiful lights, So they were surprised, wow, the relic became radiant, emitted beautiful lights. So all of them became more and more faithful, more resolute in the faith. By heart, wow, beautiful lights. Then this lady who gave them that relic, she felt very, very unfair for cheating them. Then she went to declare to them. She said, my friend, I'm sorry. I did not give you the Buddha's relic. This is only the tooth of the dog. But still, they continued, and still that thing was very radiant and emitted beautiful lights. Because of what? We say because of the faith. Because of the resolute faith. Because of the mass who had the same faith. So that is called accumulated faith. Correct? And that accumulated faith can bring some miracles to you, can bring some magical results to you. Okay, so that is just an off cerita outside sikit lah. Kita kasi dengar cerita sikit lah. Okay, so now we know that faith and mythology seem to satisfy some deep-rooted needs of a human mind. Correct? And this kind of faith and mythological practices, it does satisfy some deep-rooted needs of a human mind and covers all their religious aspirations. Correct? Okay, the Buddha did not request. Remember, the Buddha did not request for such devotion. He did not, because he said that once the fire is extinguished, correct? Once this consciousness is extinguished, it does not need any more fuel. Right? Once the fire is extinguished, no more fuel is needed. So once you have become an arahant or become the Buddha, he doesn't need any more of this kind of practices. But we continue because we want our faith to become stronger and stronger. And we hope that if we are not ready today, but we hope that through our good actions, we get merits that will help us in the next rebirth, like I said, that is more conducive for our spiritual practice. Right? So that is what we say, the mythological. Of course, again, I've covered a bit on your actually magical also. The magical part I've covered, whereby the woman and they worship that relic actually from the tooth of a dog, but they still see the magical results. So Buddhism propagates that perfect peace and wisdom can be attained by total extinction of greed, hatred, and delusion. And what is the delusion we talk about? We have tried to give up our greed by normal practices, earlier we said, and then our hatred and jealousy and our delusion, which is actually our mind. Delusion is we're deluded because we always think that this stuff is permanent. So now we must get rid of this kind of things. So then the Buddha says that the total extinction of the greed, hatred, and delusion, also known as self-identity and interest. So this perfect wisdom is magic itself. It protects us from clinging to false notion of self and attachment to worldly possession. Okay, this magic heals us from sickness of wanting and never satisfied. All right, so that is why we also do the Bojjhanga. Coming back to the Bojjhanga service that we do every Friday, this Bojjhanga is an example of we surrender ourselves to this practice leading to the magic of realization of what? Of non-self, of not self. And we don't pray, but we venerate the Buddha, his Dhamma, and the members of his Arya Sangha. Okay? And preferably, we say that we now, for this magical practice, we try to recite from memory where possible. We practice, we recite from memory where possible. We practice diligently to strengthen our mind through memory method. That's another way of cultivating your mind. Through memory method, you must try to chant the Bojjhanga by heart. All right? Chant all the suttas by heart. But if you do it regularly, I'm sure you can. Okay? And this is how the Buddha taught the Dhamma, through the Bhanaka system. All have to memorize by heart. So that it is also a cultivation of your mind. So there are many ways you can practice Buddhism, right? So we can also practice through chanting, because it reinforces your mind. It makes your mind stronger. Then that is called the Bhanaka system. And this help ease our minds of trouble. But this easing of our mind from trouble is temporary, correct? When we recite, we feel free from all this. Then after that, it comes back. We continue to recite, it releases temporarily, then it comes back. So, but as we continue and continue and continue, this period of peace gets longer and longer and longer, and we hope ultimately it will be there always. Okay, so this is how we cultivate ourselves for the ladies. So these sacred texts are, okay, again, this is a footnote for you. All these sacred texts are, how do we know that the teachings of the Buddha are kept intact? This is through chanting communally. That's what we did 2 days, actually, that's what we did a few days ago. We did it on the Friday, Saturday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 3 days and 2 nights, okay? We chanted it as a community. We chanted as a group. So this is how the Buddha kept the teachings intact, through chanting as a community or through chanting communally. This is the practice of the old wisdom school or the Bhanaka system, we call it. This practice will also trigger these 5 powers in us. It triggers the power in us. What power is the Bala in us? The power of faith, the power of vigor or effort, and the power of mindfulness. Okay? So we must practice this to reinforce our 5 powers. That is the Bala and the powers, the faith, the vigor, the effort, and the mindfulness. We must cultivate ourselves. Let's pray. So this is also another form of cultivation. Alternatively, this may be called, what we call this is the gradual learning. I've always stressed on gradual learning. Don't rush. There's nothing to rush. We just, like what our monk said, the abbot of Susima said, we come here to practice. We don't come to learn Buddhism, right? We come to practice. Okay, that is kind of the understanding of all the forest monastery, for the forest monks. They are only practicing. They like to practice more. He was telling me also some of the monks there are illiterate, yet they become arahant. Do they need to read to get a doctorate degree to become an arahant? Has the Buddha a doctorate degree? It's only through practice. So let's not forget. Alternatively, these may be called the gradual learning of the Sila, Samadhi, and Panya. And that's my short sharing for you today. Thank you very much. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Over to you, Brother Terence.
Thank you very much, Bro Tan Leng Huat, and have a safe trip back to Malacca. Now, as Bro Tan Leng Huat has mentioned, now let's dedicate marriage to all the devas and all beings, whether they are seen or unseen. Akasatha Chabummatha Devanaga Mahitika Punyang Chamanumoditva Chiram Rakantu Loka Sasanang Ettavata Chamhehi Sampadang Punya Sampadang Sabbe Deva Sabbe Bhuta Sabbe Satta Anumodantu Sabba Sampatti Siddhya. And dedication of marriage to the departed. Idang me nyati nang hotu sukita hontu nyatayo. Idang me nyati nang hotu sukita hontu nyatayo. Idang me nyati nang hotu sukita hontu nyatayo. And aspirations. Imina punya kammena mame bala samagamo satang samagamo hotu yava nibbana patiya. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you everyone for watching. For other videos, please visit the links below.